I'm starting off with some Pat the Bunny music to take some bong hits to eat some graham crackers, and then we're gonna watch the video. I'm in kind of a Pat the Bunny mood. That's why I'm gonna have some coffee and cigarettes. That's the way the word on the street. Well, poppers, cigarettes with a little bit of weed on top. Because god damn it, I'm too lonely out here. I'm gonna take my sinus medication right after too. I'm just starting to fucking figure my shit out. But he makes me feel good because I like the sound of his screams. They're relatable to a certain part of myself. Maybe you can relate as well. Maybe you can sing along if you know the words. Home, and I'm right here. Whoa! I fucking hate the suburbs, man! This shit makes me feel stuff. It makes me feel a lot of stuff, actually. I gotta load this bong hit. Gotta feel emotional to feel alive, Fuck, man! But if you... Well, I haven't told you. I keep my word. I'm not like him in that way. I'll fucking masochize myself, but I understand where he's coming from, though. Personally, I value the my word. One of the few things I haven't really lost a hold of, for the most part. That being said, I can imagine being there if I had a little bit less, if I was a little bit less lucky. So I don't judge. Because I can imagine getting to that point. I've been lucky enough that I've had like food and shelter, If I didn't have food and shelter, then I might be more privy to lie. Now back to the history of the CIA. Alright, one more popper, then the eardrops. The power to build. No, we're going through it in order. but I respect the hustle. It's hard to do. Mm. 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 Fuck yeah, buddy. I'll link the source in chat. I don't see it. Oh, that's for the songs from Internet Archives in the U.S. Library. All right. I'll just put that in chat, I guess. Just copy paste the sources, so I guess that's good. Mm. Of course. Of course, a horse, of course. James Jesus Angleton. He looks like an Angleton. Look at that motherfucker's eyebrows. Jesus Christ. He's a demon incarnate. We're getting spooky. Pun intended. Helliwell. Drug dealing is a great way to fundraise. That makes sense. They're doing that. That would explain a lot of what they're doing today. They learned from the British too. I want to say they learned this from the British who did it to them back in the day. Like the British did got them hooked on the opium in the first place, and then basically the Chinese communists were taking over, and they're like it's kind of like alcohol in Russia. It's the same way how like when Lenin took over, he tried to ban he tried to ban vodka because it's basically been used as a tool of control for over the people for a very long time, and it didn't work because you can't take away people's drugs. That's the thing. You once you've gotten a populace hooked, it's not fair to just take away their drugs. It's bullshit. But but one of the things Stalin did was he didn't just put it back in. He started distributing it from the state level. So Stalin was actually, and Mao was taking from Stalin's playbook a lot of what Mao did, which is why he was really good friends with Stalin until and then after Stalin died, they had that little war just because fucking he really didn't like Khrushchev, his successor, who was arguably a lot more competent. Khrushchev wasn't terrible he wasn't a terrible man. He was trying to do the best he could. It seemed like with arguable means. But Khrushchev was not the same as the dictator who came before and the asshole Brezhnev who came after him, who was basically just a Stalin wannabe had no spine of his own, whereas Stalin was at least a player of the game. Brezhnev was just kind of like following Stalin to get where, because that was where the not money but power was. Kind of money. I mean, they had a monetary system at that point, but the idea is that money is just one way of achieving power. These guys might not be capitalists on paper, but they are brutal imperialists and industrialists, and they've been playing this fucking game for a very long time. It wasn't always called capitalism, okay? The game was not always called capitalism. It used to be called imperialism. It used to be called colonialism. These are different names for the beast that Ginsburg called Moloch. If you want to put a name to it, an ancient deity, a demon. It's the spirit of possession, of wealth and greed, the pursuit of ultimely power, and furthermore, the idea that people must control other people. If we're going to put an ends to the name here, basically, we're gonna tell you how the beast is, so you can know when to see it. And basically, anybody who thinks that they know best for the world is wrong. I'm taking a second to let that sink in. I'm not claiming I know what's best for the world, so that's something you should listen to me about. And if you don't want to listen to me about that, then, I mean, you can take my idea of what's best for the world, and that's fine too, I suppose. But I'm not actually advocating for that, so you don't have to take my idea about what's best for the world. I just want you to think about it for yourself. See, a lot of society's great critics have had giant general agendas. A lot of things that they wanted, agendas they wanted to achieve. They're like, I see all the flaws in this fucking system. And they say, we gotta fix it. And I think we can maybe steer the ship in a better direction. And I do have a political idea that I'm starting. But that's not this. Because fundamentally, what metastate is separate. It endorses the political branch, or it really doesn't, honestly. Like, this metastate and reality TM corporate branch is about spreading the idea of art and artists and people who want to talk about ideas. So, in line with my political beliefs about free speech being very something much to advocate for, I'm neither left nor right, by the way. I'm a neo-libertarian occultist. It's a party I'm starting myself, but I'm keeping that separate from the metastate because the metastate doesn't necessarily need to be political. It's a state without borders. So it applies to your mind. It you can subscribe to a lot of other ideologies and still follow the metastate, or use the metastate, if you will. Metastate is just a tool. It's a name. Okay? It's not a god. It's not like something that you should worship. That's dumb. If anything, you should worship yourself. Because, okay? I don't think you should worship anything, but if you anything, worship yourself. Maybe your friends and family in that same vein. Because, the people you care about are what's important to you. I'm not what's important to you. Unless I know you personally, unless I know your name, you shouldn't really give a fuck about Kaiote. You should give a fuck about what I'm saying, I think. Because I think I have a good idea. Because I'm just a clown presenting this idea to you. I'm the clown who I worship myself, so I think I have a lot of good ideas, which is the grounds on which I say all this shit. Like, I don't think I'm fucking perfect. I don't think I'm like Hitler or Mao or Stalin or whatever. But I think at the very same time that I'm a foolish and I like to entertain, I think I might have some good ideas. And those ideas are debatable. I'm not claiming that they aren't, and that's part of why I advocate for free speech on a grounds level, because I don't think I should ever be able to take that right away from you. No, I wouldn't want to. I want people to disagree with me openly and in public. I would like to be challenged and debated. This is not because my worldviews are something that is subject to change. This is another reason that I keep Metastate and the neo-libertarian occultist parties separate, is because these ideas are evolving together within my own foundation, but separately as things that can exist without me as I am now. And myself will change because myself is more than just a brand. Okay, I'm not just some fucking lonely cat on the street who needs a particular label to be I'm Kaiote. That's just my name. That's who I am. Kaiote motherfucking Hinderstein. It's a brand for myself, and I'm not fucking special. I'm not especially special, but I think everyone's special in the way that we're alien from each other. And your friends and your family are less alien too because you start to speak the same language over time. So you don't have to be alone. That's not what I'm saying. But I do think that fundamentally most people are alien to each other. And that's not a bad thing. You shouldn't shoot down ET. Aliens are fucking cool. Aliens are weird. And I'd even say aliens make fucking life worth living. Because I got sick of the same shit after a while. Especially because I was born sort of as an alien in my own society. I don't really relate very well to a lot of the people in my neighborhood around me. And some of the ones I do are on some like fundamental level, but there's like people I found on the internet who don't even exist near me, like from other countries even, who I relate to more and have been friends with for years. And those are people that I care about fundamentally and would defend before anyone who calls themselves American or any of these other bullshit labels. I care about my personal friends and family, and that can be anyone. Okay, I don't care about any of those other bullshit labels. I mean, maybe if the labels are interesting to you, then I'll care about them if I care about you to a certain degree. Though I will say that I don't think you should just respect every fucking religion or every fucking culture just for the sake of giving credence. Like if you want to respect an idea, you should give it thought first. I think a lot of ideas that aren't yours are definitely worthy of respect and at the very least entertainment, because that's all you can really give. You can pay with entertainment by spreading these ideas in a mimetic zeitgeist culture. The more you pay attention, the more you listen, the more an idea persists through your head and other individuals' heads. The more valuable it has, and the more it is beckoned to last throughout time. That's a meme, if you will. It's kind of like money exists because and it works because everybody accepts it. The dollar is no longer even on the gold standard. That hasn't been the case since the 1970s. It's basically the dollar is valued on the meme. It's valued on America, and like the reason I think they took the dollar off the gold standard is because it does give the American government a sort of fundamental power. It's almost like ascended the American government in a way, because those fuckers who print money, like that made the American machine into a meta state of sorts. That's basically what Nixon did when he took America off the gold standard. Kind of an interesting move politically, however you feel about it. Anyway, back to the show. Well, fucking not. It's kind of hip. I mean, it's evil, but it's kind of badass. Like I mean like I could see doing that job. Like it seems like fun. Expansionalism. Drugs and the sea. I love drugs. Governmental. Yes. I love how in Venture Bros the OSS and the terrorist organization like the Guild of Calamitous Intent are like the Guild of Calamitous Intent is basically like kind of like the Freemasons to a lot of degree, but like they're just like different organizations that know each other and work with each other. And the OSS is basically the CIA, and then and that makes so much sense. They're just different little clubs for people who like to play spy games. Ha ha ha. Metastate is our own club, by the way. That's what I'm trying to do here, and I think it's cooler than the CIA or the fucking the CIA or the fucking Freemasons, because they're both like kind of full of themselves and they're assholes. And if you call them gay, they'll get offended. So I love calling them gay too, because like it's cool to be gay. Like my ex-wife had a dick. I'm not afraid to say I got a little gay. It's fucking hip in the modern age. I don't know why everybody's ashamed of the gay shit, but like fucking sometimes friendship is magic, and I think they both realize that to different degrees. Both of those societies realize the magic of friendship, and that's why they hate being gay. But because friendship and gayness sort of go hand in hand if you think about it. but because if you get down to it, like what was the difference of different relationships? They're all types of different relationships, and as per somebody who doesn't really enjoy like doing stuff with, like, I had a romantic relationship with somebody who put themselves out, who identified very heavily and structured their lives as a woman, and therefore they are a woman to me. in all sense of the words that I needed to have that connection because of the way I was raised, I suppose. But like, it doesn't really matter, you know, because really, like, and that's what she realized later too, and I also kind of realized and I'm realizing is we're both non-binary, we're both just fucking people. We have preferences in the way we act and dress a lot of the time, and it's okay to have those preferences, but you don't have to like you don't have to apply yourself to a specific ego. That's the idea behind Metastate too. Aside from just being an organization of friends who like to talk about ideas and express arts and show each other cool shit. It's hidden out in the open because if you think it's cringy or gay, then you're not wrong. You're totally right, in fact, because you're cringing at it and you're calling it gay. And so therefore to you it is cringy and gay. I cannot argue against that. I would not want to try. And if it's gay, it's okay because it's okay to be gay. And if it's cringy, that to address the other point, because if it's gay, it's okay to be gay. We've established this. But if it's cringy, um, to this I say, why cringe when you could laugh with us? That is what I will say to that. Is you can get in on the joke before it's too late, because the thing that you're cringing at is something that presumably you can't take seriously, and I can't take this seriously either. Life is a joke to me. Like every day I wake up and I choose not to kill myself. You have to understand. So basically, the meta state is just a bit way of having fun. We were making life worth living. I'm trying to make life worth living. That's why I put so much effort into peddling meta state and making this thing into a big deal. It's because I just want to have fun with the idea of this society of artists and philosophers and this meme and chaos magic and all this bullshit. But I'm not trying to take it so seriously to the point where we can't see that all of this is ridiculous and absurd. And well, not ridiculous, because I would say that the difference between ridiculousness and absurdity is small, but definitely discernible if you think about it. Because ridiculousness implies worthy of ridicule, and absurd just implies that it's deranged or abstract or unexpected or weird. And weird is just another word for interesting. And interesting is entertaining to me. And so, to me, I see weird as a net good, not a bad thing, as many people would say. If you must dualistically categorize them into a good and bad binary, we can look at weird as a good TM thing to say, and that's what I have to say on the matter. And now we can go back to the video. By the way, I also have to say in segue to that, the first step to being involved in becoming an agent of Metastate, all you have to it takes to be an agent of Metastate is to know about Metastate. So anybody who's watched this far into the video, welcome to Metastate. By the way, whether you like it or not, the idea now exists within your head as a thought plague. I like to think of it as a sort of thought plague vaccine, because all Metastate is a way of encouraging people to think about the meta of a situation. It's not that hard. What is the meta state of a situation, right? What is the state? What is the? It started out as a joke about a nation without borders, something that exists without. But that's because on the inside there are the internal politics of man, and there are external politics with your society and the people around you, and then there are politics of the national level, which exist within the what we would think of as nation states. And so that's why the idea of a meta state applies to the individual self as well as the chronic form of geopolitics. People like to re-express themselves on the outside, similar to how they do on the inside. We just make networks of memes and identities and language for having commonality in the way that we perceive that expression. And of course, the more experiences we share that are built up, the more commonality in language we have, the more similar our languages and syntax for relating to each other can be deferred. And so metastate, what at its core is a meme, a word that can be decoded into any level of explanation. When you ask about metastate, you will get data relating to the idea of meta and states. And so either way, it's kind of like a trap to get you into thinking about certain things in the way that, like, for example, metacognition, if you apply the metastate to yourself, you end up thinking about what is it to recognize yourself. What is the meta of yourself? What is the meta state of yourself, rather? Is the state that yourself is in. The state that yourself is in is, when you think about it, that's ego. And ego is just a concept that doesn't necessarily have to exist, but is used commonly to defer identity and sculpt the idea of self, sometimes fraudulently encoded by others without your permission, if you're not even aware to put up firewalls to stop that kind of thing. And once you're aware of it, ego is basically just, the word ego means an idea for yourself, your self's idea of yourself, as Freud put it. And Freud was kind of flawed in a lot of his thinking, because a lot of what his thinking did was put his perceptions of himself and encoded them as perceptions of everyone. So, but by learning about what Freud was using in the terminology, adopting his terminology, we can actually take things from his line of work and go with it. So the idea of ego, the idea of manifesting an idea of yourself, isn't something that you have to do fundamentally, I don't think. But what you can do is you can manifest an idea of yourself to code yourself. That is the different networks of contraption of thought, of iterative thought and functions that make up your codified identity and processes for identifying yourself in the idea of cognition, if you will. And also, as well as metacognition, which is cognition about that cognition, cognition within the function of preconceived, the preconceived notion of cognition within cognition, in the liminal space that is your mind's eye in your head, the imagination station, if you will. And this is how you start to encode the network of data and start to think about your own perceptions as a sort of network of structured code. And that gets into metastate on that level. So there's a lot of data that you can deconstruct out of the metastate idea. That's a theory that I've put, or a hypothesis that I've put to a lot of work as I've been sort of decoding with metastate for a while. This idea of a sense of self, and another thing about that is ideas and names and labels have power, because when you give something a name, you register it as a category in your associative hierarchy of memory, basically. And by storing things in your associated hierarchy of memory, you have default dispositions of where they're related to other characterized data that exist as physical neurons that grow in your hypothetical neural structure. And so through associations, you can actually unpack a lot of this code and sort of reiterate your own function and even start to relearn data that's lost. One might say that if you burned out a lot of your information, you might start to decode it from the idea of metastate. Which is good, because I think I fucked up myself a little bit for a while, but now I'm using the term metastate to sort of unpack and deconstruct my bullshit and start to remember all of my thoughts that were dissociated from my inner sense of self, because I know that my purpose is tied to metastate, so I can't really get lost so easily. Because metastate is just this idea that I've championed really heavily as a brand. This thought plague, this meme. You could say I'm on a reality crusade with the to fight the war on the idea of subjective reality by spreading this idea of metastate with the word on the street. And it's some bullshit that I just made up, that I contrived out of the chaos of my unrequited chemically fused mind. But I do like the idea of allowing adults to consent and think for themselves. And furthermore, I do think it makes for a more helpful and interesting society when all of the weird aliens that I described can be aware of the fact that they are weird and alien to each other, and not shun each other based on that principle, but instead be welcoming of each other's differences. And that's why I actually welcome diversity, and I think that diversity is a wonderful fucking thing. And the reason it gets misconstrued so often, the reason people get stuck up blaming immigrants for all of this stuff, is not because immigrants cannot come to be function within their own society, but because people tell them that they are fundamentally different, when in actuality all humans, you see, all humankind are able to fucking encode themselves and distribute data in these ways with or without knowing it. This is a basic function of the human brain. And having the language to describe that function of the human brain gives you the ability to perceive it and use that functionality in a way that is not necessarily taught in schools, and it's very, very hard to come across statistically. And so I think that by putting it out as an influencer, perhaps I'm making it more likely that more people will perceive this idea. And I'm definitely not the first one who's perceived it, or at least ideas similar to this, because I've come into plenty of people who seem to understand what the fuck I'm talking about already, almost in fundamental ways, because they've probably read things that were influenced by similar things that I've read. And it's just different pieces are out there to put together. I'm not the fucking most genius person ever in society. I'm not the first one to come up with this. Thank fuck, because for years I thought I was. For years I thought I was fucking alone. But that's another thing with metastate, is I want to be less lonely. So I'm trying to create this archetypical framework for us weirdos to fucking find each other. Because whatever the fuck it is, I don't want to be alone with this knowledge. I want to know that I have friends who know this, and I have a few friends who do know this. And the more that they stick around me, the more I'm explaining it to them. So that's good. But basically the idea that you can just pass along this encoded data and not be so alone in the world, I really, really like that factor. And so I'm going to spread that partially out of my own sense of like grandiosity and wanting to go on an adventure and be a media entertainment influencer, because that's what I want to do. Is I would like to get paid to just talk about my thoughts and ideas and spread them, because I think they are good TM, in that I at the very least think they have value and are worth entertaining. And I don't believe in good and bad, but that's something that I've gotten into and we'll get into more later. But like, I do believe in subjectively good for within a circumstance. They're good for me. They're good for my friends and family. They seem to be, and part of what's good for me is I think achieving agency, because that's what I want to do really. If you want to know about me as a person, I want to achieve agency on this world stage. I have my basic needs covered. I'm lucky enough to live with my parents, and I have like enough like food and like entertainment to like basically make it so I can live a steady existence. But it's making me want to fucking kill myself, and it gets really old at doing the same thing after a while. And so basically this is my way of I've been trying to work different jobs and do other stuff, and I still want to do other stuff to get money, but this is the thing that I want to make money with. This is I want to eventually dance for because I enjoy dancing is basically the thing. I enjoy being an entertainer. I enjoy being entertaining, not just for you but for myself, and I enjoy the friends I meet along the way by being entertaining in such a manner. So this is a lonely person sort of making their way in the world with an organization that I've created from my head. And that's the essence of the idea behind metastate. And now back to this thing with Ronald Reagan. Because that's when motherfuckers like to have fun. And you know what? The thing is, everybody got to say about that. A lot of lads who play jazz are pretty individualistic motherfuckers. And they got demons for days, you see. And you see, when you're in the streets, right, you got to do stuff to get by. And so, like, a lot of it's like when you're at war, like how a lot of Vietnam veterans did heroin too. In Vietnam, they did. When you're in the streets, okay, it's different. You gotta fucking do different shit to relax. You gotta do different shit to get fucking by, because when you're all right. So, it's kind of the CIA's fucking fault, and it's kind of a lot of these conservative organizations' faults for putting and just all these motherfuckers who have just put people down for so long. They don't understand what it's like to live in the streets. I'm not sure if this kid exactly understands what it's like to live in the streets. Because when you live in the fucking streets, you have to fucking cope. It's not fucking easy, okay? And I'm not just saying that for myself. I've had it relatively good. Like I said, I have food and a shelter, but it's fucking hard out there. Trust me. If you've seen the cats out there doing what they got to do to survive, then you would be a lot more understanding of the now. And here's the thing: what you have with the opium crisis, and sort of what it remarks is a bunch of fucking, generally the white people, not literally people who are white by race, but like you could be black and white in that way. But like you have the sort of bourgeoisie middle class, sort of this dying brand of people who have been raised in the last generation as the children of people who thought they were all going to die young. And that's the baby boomers. The baby boomers thought they were going to die young for the most part, so they didn't really plan for the fucking future. And then their children were kind of fucking spoiled because the baby boomers had like lots of fucking money, and then their kids got spoiled as fuck, right? And that created a generation of infantilized adults. And that's my parents and a lot of my friends' parents. And now that the economy has gotten hard again, okay, now that we're back out in the streets, now that we're seeing how it fucking is, you understand. So those people in the middle class who are doing drugs because the doctors put them on the pills and then they didn't. That is a predicament for them. They have not seen anything wiser. Okay, those people took the advice of doctors that they trusted too much, and those doctors had corporate interests at heart. And there are good doctors out there. Not all doctors are fucked like this, but like a good chunk of them fucking are, because a good chunk of them are fucking rich assholes who just don't give a fuck about anyone but their friends, just kind of like me, except I'm not that rich. But like, I also don't give a fuck about too many other people than my friends. It's hard to tell you. I do give a little bit of a fuck. I do. It does bother me when people take advantage of strangers, like they're not fucking people. Because I do like to express basic human fucking decency, and that might be an arbitrary value, but I don't think anybody's better than me. It's fucking important to remember. Nobody's fucking better than you. You can be better at stuff. Nobody's equal, but nobody is intrinsically better as a person than you. Okay? And that's another fucking thought plague that just been thrown in through the schools and laced into the American public. Because these fucking capitalist fuckers, they just want you to climb a corporate ladder or contribute to a bluegrass system of workers who will inflate industry and be more easily controlled by the real aristocrats who have been fucking flagging and controlling the back of this nation for too long, like he's talking about. So, well, yes, what he's saying about a lot of opioids in America originating in the jazz clubs might be true. That's not where the source of the opioid epidemic comes from. The opioid epidemic comes from doctors being fucking financed to overprescribe opiates to fucking white people who just, and other drugs too. Lots of other drugs. I was personally fucked by fucking methylphenidate. That's what they put me on as a child, despite me begging them not to. But that's a whole other fucking trip. So here's the fucking thing. Don't blame the drugs, okay? You can't blame the drugs. People can use drugs responsibly. Some people cannot. And infantilized adults probably have a lot harder of a time dealing with that fact. But I personally, as a harbinger of metastate, that's what I'll say. I'm a harbinger of metastate. I think people can be responsible for their own choices. And yes, a lot of people do have drug problems, and a lot of them didn't even fucking ask for it, and a lot of them need help because of that. But some of us have drug solutions, okay? Like, I was given a drug dependency against my will, and now that I have taken back control of my life, I'm using drugs as a coping mechanism, yes, but also because life is fucking hard. And it was made hard for me in that way, and so doing that is not something that is going to destroy me. It's something that's actually I'm trying to do to empower myself. And my problem is when I stop going out and getting drugs, I stop making content, I stop fucking being productive, and then I just lay there in my bed depressed, doing fucking nothing and being a burden to my friends and family, and that's not something I want to do. So I personally don't mind being a drug addict. It sucks that it came to that, but like at the same time, I am a self-admonished, I'm professional drug addict, and I am not afraid to admit that. You know, I'm using these things as a modicum of agency to express my life choices and to keep myself going. And the thing is, a lot of people, a lot of Americans, in fact, I'd say more so than not, are on drugs of some kinds. And unlike me, they are not even aware that they are drug addicts. That is the fucking craziest thing, is doctors are putting people on these drugs, and this is where the opioid crisis comes from, people. Is people not being aware that they're drug addicts, and then they go to the streets because they can't control themselves, because they didn't fucking realize what they were getting into when they took these very powerful catalytic substances, which aren't evil and are not tools of Satan and have a lot of medical powers and reasons to exist for the most part. But even recreational reasons, if you're crazy like me and you just fucking really need something to get high, if you just really can't get a rush from the normal 9 to 5, but that's a whole other fucking story, okay? If you have that kind of trauma, then you should be allowed to fucking do whatever the fuck you feel like. If you have, in fact, I'll go further. I'll say if you have enough metacognition and self-expressed agency to be responsible for yourself, then I see no problem with you doing whatever the fuck you feel like. No matter you, I think you should be informed. I think it's on the people who are a lot of the time marketing this stuff. I think they should possibly be held responsible to inform you about the consequences and risks of doing these things. But I think they should be legal to sell, and I think they should be legal to be distributed to whoever the fuck wants them. Because whether or not you have a choice in getting there, the motherfuckers need to get by. The world ain't easy, and life doesn't have any intrinsic value. But you can either be fed that value by a system or a religion or a culture, or you can learn to fucking create that value yourself. And that's the real word behind metastate. Okay? So back to the video. All right, hold on. I'm going to rewind a little bit because I zoned out and I was dealing with something, and we should probably reiterate that part just because it's not a bad idea. Damn, so they weren't even giving them good fucking shit. That's where you fucked up. See, and here's another thing: is if we had legalized drug trade and regulated drug trade, then this wouldn't be a problem. None of this would be a problem. People could get plenty. One of the most common things is, well, if you want to live life on drugs, why? How can you? What if? What about all the shit on the streets? And I totally agree. It's a terrible thing that we have to get substances that cannot be regulated through numerous means. And the thing is, people will try to do drugs, whether you fucking like it or not. Okay, people are gonna fucking do drugs. I'm going to do drugs whether you like it or not, and I'm not fucking ashamed of that. And I would personally prefer not having to take risks that a lot of people wouldn't even want me to take. And honestly, I'm less inclined to take myself as I get more financially stable. Hopefully, I'll get more financially stable to a point where I don't have to take those risks to live the type of life that I feel I want to live. But as it stands, you do have to take some risks if you're broke as fuck and you feel a lot of pain. And one of the only ways out of that is self-medication. Then really, like, it's sad to say that you're gonna not want to experiment with risky substances. You might even not want to try stuff that's better for you. You might stick to riskier stuff that you know is good, well sourced. If you get my drift, it's connections that you've cultivated over the years, and that trust might even go against you, because he's as well trusted as you can be with a plug. I have plugs who I trust very very much, but those plugs could just as well as easily get scammed, or just as well as easily get perturbed. And along the line, there is supply that gets less. You don't know where your plug gets from, and if you do, then you don't know where they get from. A lot of the time, it really depends on what you're making, unless you know how to make it yourself. In which case, hit me up in Minecraft. Hit me up in Minecraft, and then maybe we can talk in real life. But you never know. I like to make friends online. For if you like making drugs, you might also like playing Minecraft, and I also just am interested in that topic, and so that's the only reason I'd want to play Minecraft with you. And if we were ever to meet in real life, beyond that, it would just be you know, just because sometimes when you play Minecraft with someone, you become friends after a while. A lot of my metaverse friends have become real friends, and in fact, fucking Sam, I met Sam in the meat space, and his girlfriend is someone I met through my ex-wife, who I lived with for a while, who I met online, and she lives in Canada, and my friend's girlfriend slash my co-host and good friend of mine, Rose, is from Massachusetts, who I met through my ex-wife from Canada. So how's that for internet connections not being real? I'm a citizen of the metaverse. A lot of my social circle is from places that were not where I grew up. That's the power of the 20. I'm a child of the millennium. I was born in 2000. Dox me if you want. I don't really have anything to lose. Send me stuff if you find my address. I'm not going to make it that easy right now. I have said it in other places, but anyway, back to the video. I feel like that is definitely not true. Okay, eyes wide open guy. That's not true. Heroin is not that expensive. Maybe it was. I would like to see, because $100 in 1940, heroin is not $100 a hit today. Okay, I don't personally buy heroin, but I can tell you that people are not paying $100 a hit for heroin. That is absurd. That is more than the price. That is more than cocaine. For cocaine, for like $50 to $80 in New York, you could get like, and there's a lot of quantity. You could get like a fucking gram of cocaine, or like a half gram of cocaine. You can get for $50 enough to fucking get high. I'll put it that way. Okay, so people are not paying fucking $100 a hit for heroin. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about or where you got that, but I like your videos, guy. But you gotta be a little bit more street smart. Okay. It's actually a good thing I'm streaming this with you because now I feel like I can fact check you on some of the stuff because some of the stuff you put forth isn't true. At the very least, is worth being skeptical of. And I'm with you, buddy. We're gonna stay alert. We're gonna be skeptical, and I encourage my audience to ask questions along the way for anything I show them. By the way, because this guy's opinion is not my own. This guy has an interesting presentation. He definitely has some interesting stuff to say, and I think what he's expressing is worth noting because it's not based on nothing. But at the same time, we got to be really really careful to take what he says with a grain of salt, just like we got to be with anything you consume. And I think this guy hopefully would agree with me. So I'm gonna keep watching the video. I'm not gonna like turn it off just because I found something I disagree in it. You gotta understand. It's actually better that I'm watching it now because I can share with you my opinions on it if I feel like something is maybe not as smart as it seems. So let's go forward further into the future. Oh, I've heard of this guy. I got really into mob shit for a while, and maybe I'll do a run through of Sammy the Bull Gravano's podcast at some point because the mob lore is really interesting. The mob the mob's had some power, not like global like hegemony power, but like in the U.S. anyway, the mob has a quite or has had at the very least, we shall say, quite a large influence in some elections and. Well, I will say I'm pretty sure Lee Harvey Oswald did shoot Kennedy, and I'm pretty sure I know who he was working for. I'm not sure though. I'm never sure of anything, of course, but I've seen some things. We'll get to this on another time. This is we don't want to stack all of the interesting ideas too high, and I'm not going to confirm or deny a lot of these interesting ideas that may have been had because we're still exploring them and unpacking them and figuring them out along the way. Because there's a lot of interesting shit that I want to unravel here on the reality TM cast, the meta state, metacast, whatever the fuck we're calling this shit, with the Chaosketeers, whoever wants to join in, and all of these ideas that we're going to be displaying will be reacted to and picked apart, and well, onward with the video. Just putting a note for further there interest there, because if I explore it in the future, you as the audience will also have the chance to. So remember that name, Lucky Luciano, because I might do some deep dives onto his content. That's what I like to do with this station is go into YouTube wormholes, basically. We're streaming YouTube wormholes. This is like the fucking Twilight Zone. But you know. Okay. Good for him, honestly, because like as far as crimes go, you might as well. And well, if you have a taboo around the drug industry, maybe it's because the drug industry is done not right. Maybe you could be the change you want to see. Amelia the cat, Amelia the cat, how you doing, Amelia the cat? You want to go out? I'm gonna have to let the cat out. Who's your pretty kitty? Amelia, I'm still busy. I can't. I feel so felt bad. My mom locked her out last night. I should need to give her attention. What's your deal, Amelia? Do you think I'm two people? Amelia, why are you demanding all of my attention? I think my cat is registering each of my hands as two autonomously different individuals. This is weird. Because she seems to want attention for both of my hands independently. And like if one like gets too much on her for too long, she's like, you have to go with the other hand. Amelia, these are both me. No, they wouldn't sell it to their own people. They because they were kind of racist. The gang people. Because the thing was, they thought drugs were bad. That's the funny thing about the mob selling the drugs is they would sell them to black people because they thought drugs were shitty and you shouldn't do them. They had too much respect and high class for themselves to do drugs, but no, no, they're just no. Nice. Poping around Reagan. They killed Charles Mingus. See, the CIA understands that drugs have intrinsic value. A lot of things don't have intrinsic value, but drugs have intrinsic value because they get you high, and value is the idea of magical things that, just like the economy, and just like how the United States has sort of turned themselves into a meta state that is run by people who value it through operating the systems and loyalty to ideas and all of this sort of meta magic bullshit, the chaos magic, if you will. It's not actually magic. It's idealism and social control is another way of putting it. If you use these tools and mechanisms of social control, then so what I'm doing in the sense of isn't exactly chaos magic. It's sort of meta magic because I'm trying to unblindfold that mechanism in the way I'm using it. I'm trying to use it so that maybe they can lose its power as much, because it's fun, but it shouldn't work as well as it does. It doesn't have to work. You can protect against it. Uh, that's the beauty. I'm fighting my war on reality, you see. Because we can manufacture reality for ourselves, and you should do that. It's good to know that reality is subjective and not real. But you don't have to let other people tell you what reality is, because it's limited to what you can imagine. And if you want to make your dreams come true to any capacity, at the very least, you should believe in the power of your own imagination to create reality, because it can do that. I'll tell you that. As a matter of fact, muchacho, that's what this metastate shit's all about. Sure, bud. To you, because you have 894 comments. I guess he's gotten bigger since he started making this. All right. Well, I'm about to come back with the with another chapter. We're gonna keep going through this series. Keep reacting to it in the metastate way. This might be the first one I upload because this is the first one that I think was pretty productive. So I'm gonna upload this reaction to YouTube and see how it goes.